Hello guys, my name is Desmond and I welcome you to my lesson for today where we'll be looking at your mathematics. This is a 2015 exam question paper. We'll be looking at question 4 of this question paper. Obviously, you did see the question that I sent in the group, and I've actually advised you guys to give it a try before we do it in class. But it's fine if you couldn't see the question, or otherwise if you're not able to do it. In today's lesson, I'm going to show you guys on how to tackle questions related to functions, specifically for straight line, parabola, hyperbola, and exponential. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. Guys, please do allow me to say it is very much important, Kensani, that I say it is very, very much important, Lerat, because what I'm about to say, Grace, it's massively important. Guys, a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. 3 years. Please do make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Very, very much important over there. So now, under question number 4, this is what we are given. Obviously, we'll be looking at question number 4.1. So all the following questions will be based on the given information under question number 4. So now, question 4.1, as you can see from the image that I sent in the group, it says, write down the equations of the asymptotes of G. But remember, guys, can someone tell what type of a function is that? Is there someone who wants to guess?
It's a hyperbola.
It's a hyperbola, 100%. So, Lerato, what information do you know about a hyperbola?
It has two asymptotes.
It has two asymptotes. Anything that you'd like to say in addition to that? Not necessarily Lerato, guys. Anyone who'd like to give it a try, you are welcome to also give it a try. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to do an interpretation of the given information over there. So always just think about what I'm about to do or what I'm about to say. So obviously, we are given a function named g. So this is the function. So now you can see the a value, it is actually a positive a value, which means the function originally it's in the first and third quadrant, but this function shifts in 2 directions, and the shifting can be seen by the asymptotes. So we said this part tells us more about the sideways shift. So if you solve for x, you are going to say x plus 2, it is equals to 0, x, it is equals to -2, which means this function of g, it actually shifts by 2 units to the left. So that means this is where you are going to have, for example, your asymptote. And this one, you take it as it is, Shreyas. So that means it actually shifted by 1 unit downwards. You can therefore have your equation of asymptote there. So that means you've got y being equals to negative that, and then you've got x being equals to negative 2 over there. So remember, we said because of the a value, it means this is going to be in the first and the third quadrant. So that means you'll end up having something similar to that. But remember, you'll obviously need to have the x and the y axis for you to sketch that function. So somewhere you might be having your x and your y axis. So that's all that I wanted to interpret regarding a hyperbola. So just make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that at all times you are aware of how to interpret the given function. So now, question 4.1. The question says, write down the equations of asymptotes of G. And this question is allocated 2 marks. Listen very carefully, write down. No one is saying calculate, no one is saying determine. So for the fact that examiner is saying write down, it's more like it's an easy thing to do, especially when you consider the fact that it is given only 2 marks. It means you just take answers from the given information. So, is there anyone who would like to try this question? Remember, guys, don't give me an answer. The first thing that you say is to mention your name, then I will recognize you, honorable member. Anyone who wants to give it a try?
Concerning given.
Given you are recognized.
Okay. The isotopes in the side of y is equals to -1 and x is equals to -2.
Y is equals to -1. So he took it as it is from the given info, and then there he just solved for x. Then he's having x is equals to -2. Remember to mute your mic, Kensan. So every time after making a comment, remember to mute your mic. So this is exactly, ladies and gentlemen, how you score yourself 2 marks. So 1 mark for that and 1 mark for that. I'm not sure if there's someone who's got a question in relation to how you determine the asymptotes of the given function. Anyone who's got a question before we continue, guys? It seems like we are all on the same page on that one. So just as an example, if you've got something like y -3 over x, let's say -3 plus 4. For this one, the equations of asymptotes, you can just say y is equals 2, you take it as it is +4. And then for x is equals 2, you just write that number with its opposite sign. So there, if it's written as -3, you can just write it as +3. The reason to that is because it's more like you solve for x, where you've got x -3 being equals to 0, then x it is equals to +3. Just in case, if for some reason Sapang examiner tries to be tricky, let's say maybe instead of writing it in that way, they say y is equals to -3. Let's say -3 plus x, and then there they say +4. Just make sure that you equate whatever that is at the bottom to 0. So you're having -3 plus x is equals to 0. Then you can write that to the other side. Then you have x being equals to +3. Just so that you have 3 being equated to something. Then that is the equation of your asymptote. Does it make sense there, Martorell Matavanga? Did you get that part?
Yes, I did, sir. Thank you for asking, sir.
Okay, 100%. So now let's try to move to question 4.2. So question number 4.2, remember guys, this question is sent in the group, so I'm assuming that you are aware of what I'm reading over there. So the question says calculate the following. So this is 4.2, which says calculate the following. What exactly do they want you to calculate? So we've got 4.2.1 over there. They want you to calculate the y-intercept of a G. Y-intercept of a G. I'm not sure if Shreyas, you want to guess this one. Every time when we calculate the y-intercept, what happens, Shreyas, or what do we know about the x value, or how do we do that? Do you want to give it a guess?
No, so I'm fine.
Okay, so just remember Shreyas. So Shreyas, guys, is in grade he's in grade 10, so he's being exposed to most of the things that we're doing either for grade for grade 11 or grade 12. So Shreyas, I'm going to dedicate this explanation to you. So every time when they say the y-intercept of a certain function, so this word y-intercept is more like they say where y touches where y let me say where the graph, I think if I use the word where the graph touch y, that's what it is meant by y-intercept. So y-intercept simply means on a Cartesian plane. If you have a straight line, let's say a straight line in that direction, when we talk about the y-intercept, Shreyas, it is that point. This is where that line touches that y-axis. So always we know that x, it is 0 there, which is that 0 from the origin. So every time when you talk about the x-intercept, that is where that straight line touches or cuts the x-axis, which is going to be that point. And at that point, it is actually y, which is 0. You can see at that point, y, it is 0 there. At that point, this is where x, it is 0 there. So always remember that, Shreyas, to say every time when we calculate the y-intercept, always you just say that's where x, it is equals to 0, but y, it's unknown. So now we are going to calculate the y value. So we are going to use the information of G. Why? Because they said the y-intercept of G. So that means wherever you see x, you put 0, which means we are going to have 6 over 0 plus 2 minus 1. What is this when you punch it on a calculator? Tsepang, remember to mute your mic on your side. What is that? So I think this is 3 minus that. What is it? Is it not 2? Are you not getting 2, Shreya? I think it's
So I'm
2.
getting 2.
Yes. So can you see? That means, Shreyas, that why it is 2 there. So just make sure not to lose this information. It might be very much important. So as you can see, this question is allocated 1 mark, which means, Shreyas, they only give you 1 mark for correct answer of 2. So in short, if I had to answer this question in exam, I wouldn't go through that lengthy process. I would say, let's say at y cut x, it is equals to 0. It doesn't matter whichever way you represent it. So here I'm just saying at y-intercept x, is 0. Therefore, on that graph of G, I'm going to therefore have 6 over 0 plus 2 minus 1, which is equals to 2. And this is where examiner is going to give me a mark for that. So now let's try to have a look at 4.2.2. So the question says calculate the x-intercept of G. So you remember, Shreyas, at x cut, we know that y it is equals to 0. So these two are vice versa. Every time when they say y-intercept, you say x is 0. Where they say x-intercept, you say y is 0. So it's more like they want you to get the y value where x is 0. Here, they want you to calculate the x value where y is 0. So from the original equation, it is y is equals to x plus 2 minus 1. So can you see y is 0? So where I see y, I'm going to put 0 there. Minus 1. So all that I need to do is to solve for x. Obviously, when you solve for x, remember x is a letter. So when you solve for x, or when you solve for a letter, you just want to have letters on one side. Therefore, I'm going to transpose that. Then I'm going to have 1 being equals to what is it? 6 over x plus 2. Then this is fraction. I can just fractionalize that so that I can cross a multiply. So can you see what happens when you cross multiply? This times 1, it is actually a that. Also, 1 times 6, it is just that. So that by that by that, you end up having that being that by that being that. Therefore, remember, we are actually looking for x. So that means we move everything away from x so that on the left side we remain with x, which is what we are trying to calculate. You end up having 6 minus 2 being equals to 4. I'm hoping that I've done everything correctly step by step, Shreyas. But if I was in exam and if I wasn't showing you guys on how to calculate, I think I would have skipped that step. With just 1, 2, 3, I'll be done. I'm not sure if Shreyas, you understood all of that. Are you happy there, Shreyas?
Yes, sir. It's very
So
clear.
I did understand it.
100%. Noted, Mr. Matavanga there. So the reason I'm asking Shreyas is because I think he's the one who's in the lower grade. So if he understands, he's actually approving that everyone should be understanding that part. Unless if you do not understand, then you are welcome to ask. So you actually get a mark, ladies and gentlemen, for equating a 0 to that. That's where you score yourself a mark. And lastly, your second mark comes from your final answer over there. So for the sake of me creating some space, let me remove all of these so that I can have enough space to continue with upcoming questions. So let's see, there we've got 0. We end up having x being equals to 4 over there. So can you see the coordinates there? That's where we've got x being 0, and then we've got what? Y being 2. And then the coordinates here, that's where we've got x being 4, and then we've got what is it? Y being 0. So these are the coordinates of or at y cut or at y intercept, and these are the coordinates at x-intercept. Let's see. I think we can now move to the next question, which says, draw the graph of G, showing clearly the asymptotes and the intercepts with the axis. Let me not remove all of that information, but try to create some space down there. Let me just remove this part, and then say maybe there, say exit ends up being 4, so that I've got some enough space there for 4.3. So 4.3, they want you to draw a graph of G, and they are saying show clearly the asymptotes. Very, very much important that you show the asymptotes, and the intercepts. Very, very much important, Shreyas, that you take note of that information. So they say show the intercepts with the axis. You do know very well that we've got what we call a Cartesian plane. A Cartesian plane is where we draw functions. So let me do something similar to that and say this is my Cartesian plane. It's only a Cartesian plane if it has y and x. That's when we know that this is not just a straight line. It is the y axis and this is the x axis. We know this is the origin where you've got your y and x being 0 at that point. Most importantly, guys, remember, you've got, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative that. Okay, so when you draw the graph of a hyperbola, the very most important thing that you should start with is the asymptotes. Very, very much important. So you remember the y asymptote, Shreyas. We said the y asymptote is at where y it is equals to -1. The asymptotes are indicated by a dotted line similar to that. Can you see, guys? Which means this is that point of -1 over there. So what about x? Can you guys see that our x asymptote is -2? Where is -2? -1, -2 there. So this is where you are now going to have your broken. Shreyas, does it make sense up to this point? Are you following there?
Yes, I'm following.
100%. So this is that one for y is equals to -1, and then this one is for x. It is equals to -2 over there. So remember, based on our previous lesson, I said the general formula is that of a over x plus, let's say, h plus v. H in this case being that, and then v in this case being that. Why did I use letter H? So that it reminds us of horizontal shift. Why V? It reminds us of a vertical shift. So can you guys see that this function of G, it actually shifted by 2 units to the left. Originally, the asymptotes were within the axis, but they shifted 1, 2. That's why I've got a broken line there. And again, shifted downwards by negative. So 1, can you see it shifted down by -1? So now you remember, Lerato, we said if our A value is positive, we therefore originally had our that in that and that. But because of that shift, then our function, it is actually going to touch the y-axis. Where is it touching the y-axis? We have calculated that it touches the y-axis at 2. So that means it is actually going to pass through that point there. So when you draw it, it is going to take that shape. But can you see again that what happens? Is it not touching the x-axis? I think it does. Can you see there at where x is positive 4? Where is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. There also. So that's why yesterday I was saying the question could have said sketch the graph of G. So that means you would first need to identify your asymptotes and then calculate the x-intercept and the y-intercept, and then from there you go through this process to do the broken lines and the 2 points. Then all that you do is just to join, and you join it creating that shape to show that this is a hyperbola having that shape, and then you just join the line. That curve in between, it might not look nice. Let me try and make it look nicer there. Yes, something similar to that. I do know very well that you'll draw it very nicely, guys. So now, can you see? We now have a shape of a hyperbola. But remember, you don't only draw it on one side, but you draw it on both sides over there. So you can just have another shape like that in the third quadrant. Therefore, it is very much important to indicate that this is the graph of G, this is the graph of G over there. Remember, guys, it is also very much important to show that this is 2, sorry, that point there, just like you've shown with this one being -1 and that one being -2, and then also that one, it is very much important to show that this is 4. I'm not sure if everyone is happy there, or in case if there's someone who's got a question, guys. But one thing for sure, this is how you score yourself 3 marks. For asymptotes, we are just going to give you 1 mark, ladies and gentlemen. And also for the intercepts, we are also going to give you a mark. So it's more like you get a mark for showing the asymptotes as we requested, and also for showing the intercepts as we requested. We're also going to give you a mark for that. And most importantly, for the correct shape, we are also going to give you a mark. So this is how you score yourself 3 marks for question 4.3. Is everyone happy there, guys? Does it make sense to everyone?
Yes, it does make sense.
It does make sense.
Sir,
Yes.
so I was just reporting that we just had load shedding, so I might be offline and
okay.
online.
Okay.
Thank you.
Noted, Mr. Given. Luckily, this lesson is being recorded, so whatever that you're going to miss, you'll be able to catch it up at a later stage, either tomorrow or sometime whenever you're free. One thing for sure, I hope you guys noticed that our manager sent the link of yesterday's lesson in the group. I hope you guys were able to notice that. Just make sure, guys, that in case if you missed any part of yesterday's lesson, you catch up. Tsepang, we do make ka 4.
Yeah, ke sharp.
Wa utlwisisa?
Yeah, ke a di tlhaloganya.
Kana o thomile neng wa attenda di-lesson?
Ke neng last month. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Then it's fine. If you understand, then it's fine. So now let's have a look at what is it, 4.4. So the question says determine the equation of the line of symmetry that has a negative gradient in the form of y it is equals to whatever. Whatever. I think let me just try to give some scenarios there so that it will be easy for everyone to follow. Let's say we've got this, and we also have, let me say this is y, this is x, and again we also have that x. Let's maybe name this one a situation b, maybe let's have situation c, and then I'm going to draw it, let's say like that. We have y and x, then I'll just do something similar to that. Maybe let me do this and then also do that, and then let's have situation d over there, and then say on situation d I'm having a Cartesian plane again, and then I'm having something similar to that, and then from there maybe let's say we've got that there and again that there. So obviously the general equation of a hyperbola is like that. Let's say plus h. We know our h represents whatever and our b represents whatever. Guys, can we have our family meeting now? Situation A, is there someone who can say whatever that they can be able to say regarding situation number A, while looking at that general equation of a hyperbola? Anyone would like to say something, guys?
So we'll have a positive A value
Reason to that?
because our graph is lying on the first and on the third quadrant.
And then what is the equations of asymptotes?
X is
Okay,
0 and Y is 0.
Did you
sir, and
guys?
I can add to say that
Mm-hmm.
it is the baby stage, something like that.
Yes, yes. So it's more like the original equation of that one would be something like y it is equals to a over just x, and I think it was Lebogang. So Lebogang said because it is at a baby stage, as honorable member has confirmed there, this is more like plus 0 plus 0. That is why the equations of the asymptote, you will say y it is equals to 0 and then x it is equals to 0. That means always when you have something similar to that, your equations of asymptotes will be 0. Sure, yes, expect something similar to this in your exam. If maybe let's say they said minus 1 over there, that means your x there, sure, yes, you write it in the opposite sign. It's more like you say x minus 1 is equals to 0, x is equals to 1. So x is equals to 1, and then y, can you see y is 0, so y is 0 there. So these are the equations of asymptotes. Just be careful of that. And again, the same explanation goes for situation B there, where in this case we have negative a value, and in this case we've got positive a value. So the asymptotes, guys, they are actually running inside this solid line. That is why it's not easy to see them, but they are there invisibly hidden in there, but because of this solid vertical line makes it not easy to see, but you can see they are making an intersection at the origin over there. Very, very much important, guys. So now the same explanation goes for that one. You can see the equations of asymptotes are actually inside that. Anyone who'd like to tell us a story regarding this one?
Say, I did not get the message. Please repeat the question. My network is
So,
unstable.
so I wanted to say, anyone to give us a story on option B over there. Is there someone who wants to say whatever they can say regarding that stage C? Possibly the message is still delivering, but it's fine. I'll just
So,
mhm.
so A is positive and the X asymptote is positive. Also the Y asymptote is positive. I don't know the values.
Yes, that was a perfect story. So it's more like in that case, we might be having y is equals to positive a value over x. Obviously, it is going to be negative h there. It is going to be negative h and then plus v. Why negative h? Because when we solve for x, we are going to have positive h so that it shifts to the right. So this is possibly the general equation of that, such that whatever a value that we have, we know is positive. There we've got a negative value. There we've got a positive value. So that means, Lebogang, in this case, this is actually the point of intersection of these asymptotes, almost as that one over there. So here, same thing can be explained. We have y, it's equals to, let's see, the a value, it is going to be a negative a value over x. So can you see it shifted to the left? So that means we're going to have positive h there, and it shifted downwards. So that means we're going to have negative v over there. So now, can you guys see that that point there? This is the point of intersection of what is it? The point of intersection of the asymptotes. So now I want you guys to fully understand what we mean by the line of symmetry. Let me use the red ink. So, Tsapang, when we talk about the line of symmetry, it can either be the one with a positive gradient or a negative gradient. So, the one with a positive gradient, it's y, it is equals to positive into x. What was it? I wanted to say plus p plus h. I'm just not sure if it is going to confuse you guys. Okay, let me give you an example. We have the general formula as a over x, let's say plus p plus q. This is that h and v. So what I wanted to say was to take this thing as it is and say plus p there, and then take that q there and say plus q, and say this is the general formula where we have a positive gradient, and that positive, it is actually positive invisible one there. So the one with a negative gradient is the same thing. The only difference is that negative there. So we have x plus p, and then we have plus q over there. I think maybe let's try to stick to this one, and say a positive gradient and maybe say negative gradient over there. So now the line of a symmetry that has a negative, no, let's start with a positive, that has a positive gradient for that situation of A. It's this line, guys. It is always passing through the point of intersection of your asymptotes. In this case, the asymptotes are hidden inside the y and the x-axis, but that line, it is actually passing through like that. So this is the equation, or the general equation, of that line with a positive gradient, and the one with a negative gradient, it is crossing like that. I'm not sure, guys, if there's someone who's got a question based on what I've explained over there. Is there someone who's got a question, guys?
Yes, I have a question.
Go for it, Sapang.
A positive gradient, y is equal to x plus q. Then a negative gradient, negative x plus q.
So, Sapang, are you saying x plus q plus, what are you, wait, which, are you talking about these formulas, Lerato? Sapang? Yes, no, you are 100% correct. I'm just worried because you say x plus q. I'm not sure if you're calling out those. So here, for a positive gradient, yes, this is the general formula, x plus p plus q. It is that one. And then for this one with a negative gradient, it is y, it's equals to negative into x, let's say, plus p plus q. Do you agree with me there, Sepang? Are we now on the same page? Okay, 100%. So I'll just remove all of this. So that was you making a correct comment, Lerato. There's no objection to that. I mean, Sapang. So now on situation B, I want to show you guys the line of symmetry that has a positive gradient. I'm not sure if you guys agree with me if I say it is that line. Given, do you agree with me on that one? Or it might
Yes,
be.
I do. I do agree.
So can you guys see that for the one that has a negative gradient, it is that one? So what makes the line of axis for a hyperbola, what makes it to be special is the fact that it is crossing at the intersection of the asymptotes. Very, very much important. So in these two situations, the intersection of the asymptotes happen to be at the origin there. Very, very much important, guys, which means if we had to give the equation for this one, passing through the origin, it's more like you just say y, it is equals to, obviously inside the brackets you've got your x. What is your equation of asymptote? Lerato, Lebogang said is 0 also for q is 0. So you end up having y, it is equals to x for that one with a positive thing. But if it was the one with a negative gradient, then you end up having y is equals to negative x. The same applies there. So it's just a matter of you listening to what examiner is saying. So that means examiner might be saying the line, equation of a line of symmetry that has a positive or a negative gradient. Then you will know which formula to use between those two. So let's try to have a look at this one. Let's draw the equation of the line of symmetry that has a positive gradient. Can someone guide me? How do I draw it there on situation C? Lebogang, do you want to give it a try?
Sir, I did not get the message.
So, Lerato, explain to me, how do I draw a line of symmetry that has a positive gradient? How do I draw it? For C.
Sir, sir, I think maybe like you're going to start whereby it's 0 to 0 on the origin. You start at the origin.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, then after you go upward, like you
Hey,
draw a line. Don't know how, but you should draw a line.
okay. So, remember, guys, it's just a matter of giving direction. So you have north, you have east, south, west. This is going to be northeast, southwest, obviously, northwest, and then southeast. Which direction can Sunny?
You're going to, I get it, you're going to start at the origin, then after you're going to northeast.
100%. So what Kensan is saying there, he's trying to describe that type of a line. So, Kensani, do you agree that what makes that line to be special is the fact that it always crosses through the intersection of those dotted lines? Do you agree with me on that one?
Yes, I do.
100%. So ladies and gentlemen, what you need to be aware of is that that line, it just passes through what is it, the intersection of the asymptotes. I'm noticing something, guys. It's just a multiplication sign where the center, it is at the intersection of the asymptotes. So it's more like you just do a cross there. This is a multiplication sign. Can you guys see? So this is a straight line with a positive gradient, and this is a straight line with a negative gradient. Did I explain it easy there using this multiplication sign? Tsepang, does it now make sense?
Yeah.
So it does make sense.
100%. So here, can you guys see that the question is saying determine the equation of the line of symmetry that has a negative gradient in the form of y is equals to whatever. So between these two formulas for our problem, which formula are we going to use? Number 1 or number 2?
Number 2.
Number two.
Why number 2, Shreyas?
So because the question's asking for a negative gradient, the equation must have a
100%. 100%. So that means we are going to have y is equals to negative into x plus p plus q over v. So remember, the original equation is, let's say, g of x is equals to 6 over what is this? This is x plus 2, and then we have minus 1 over there. So do you guys still remember we made a conclusion and Kensani confirmed that to say we just take it exactly as it is, and we just take it exactly as it is. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but he said we just say negative into, we take it as it is, being x plus 2, we take it exactly as it is, and then he said minus 1 over there. We end up having that by that by that. So we have negative x, we have minus 2, minus 1. Therefore, we end up having that. So you remember the question said write it in the form of y is equals to something. There you go. Did I get it right, guys? Are you happy there? Does it make sense to everyone? Lebza lady, are you happy there? Does it make sense?
so it does make sense.
100%. So now, that means we can confidently move to the next question, which seemed to be the last question. And remember, this question that we have just done, it is actually allocated 3 marks. So I can quickly show you exactly where you score yourself those 3 marks. So obviously, for you having a gradient of -1, remember, for this thing, gradient is either is +1 or a gradient is -1. So this is that negative invisible one there, yes. If it was a positive gradient, we're just going to have a positive over there. So let's see, for you to have that gradient, we are going to give you a mark over there. And also for correct substitution, we are also giving you a mark over there. Finally, for you to represent that in the form that we requested, we are also going to give you a mark for that. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there, that you answer the question exactly the way they want you to answer the question. So just make sure that you don't get over too excited and end up missing the question. So now the last question says, determine the value of values. Guys, if something is written like this, value, then in brackets they put s over there, they are simply not trying to be straightforward. So it's more like possibly you can have one value or more values. So that S stands for possibly values. So it's up to you based on your experience to tell whether in this case you can only have one value or one values. So just be careful when you read that. Doesn't necessarily mean that you'll always have two values. It could be one, it could be two or many. So here they say determine the value of values of x for which 6 over x plus 2 minus 1, it is actually greater or what is it, greater or equals to negative x minus 3. I'm not sure if there's someone who'd like to try do an interpretation of this and also give us an answer, or whatever, guys. Is there someone who'd like to actually give it a try? Remember, guys, just in case if it doesn't make sense, or otherwise if you don't have an answer, you can just indicate to say no idea there.
No idea, sir.
Sir,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all. Aren't you going to solve this? Maybe like start by multiplying everything by x plus 2, then after you solve algebraically.
Okay, let's maybe try to quickly go through that and try to solve. We'll just see how far we can go with that, but I'll show you something afterwards. So it's more like you say we multiply everything by that, isn't it? So that means we have what are we having there? X plus 2 greater or is equals to, there we've got that, and then we've got that plus 2. Then we have 6 minus that times that is negative x, that times that is minus 2, still have greater or that. That times that is negative x squared, that times that it is negative 2x, that times that negative 3x, that times that negative 6. This is an inequality, but a quadratic inequality. Let's take that to the other side, is positive x squared. This and that, it is actually 4. This, you have minus x there. What is this and this? This is minus 5. You take it to the other side, it becomes positive 5. This and that, we said this is actually positive 4. And then if you also take that to the other side, it changes the sign. Remember, guys, here I'm not teaching you anything. I'm just trying to quickly solve what Kensani has given me there. Then I'll try to see where it ends. But just make sure that if you notice a mistake that I'm making there, you make me aware. Let's see. We end up having x squared. What is that? I think this is positive 4x. And then what is this? I think this is positive 10. This is that and that. Is this thing factorizable? What factorization? Factorizable. Is this thing factorizable? Let's see. What makes 10? It's 5 and
No,
2,
sir,
1 and 9. It's not
it's not
factorizable.
factorizable.
But all the steps that are followed there, I haven't done any mistake, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 100%. So now let me bring something. Kensani and everyone else, you guys might need to be aware that this thing, it is actually an equation of the graph of G from the question. Just be careful of that. And then this one, can someone tell or guess what is the equation for that one?
It's for the y, sir.
Also, this one is for the y, but it is given a name and they call it a G. But this one can stand, even though I know what you're saying, but to correctly assign its name, this is the line of symmetry. Do you agree?
Oh, yes, I do agree.
This is the line of symmetry from the previous question, and this is the one that was given from the original equation or given equation. So can you guys see that you can easily be able to answer that question only if you have a correct sketch over there? So maybe let's try to draw that line of a symmetry on the same set so that we can easily be able to make an interpretation there. So I'll draw it as broken line. Where am I going to draw it? I'm going to draw it there because it has to pass there. So remember, we said we have Sefapa or a cross, which is actually making an intersection at the intersection of those two. But in this case, we're only focusing on a positive, on a negative, a line of symmetry. So what the question is saying, guys, in short, they are saying for which value or values of x are you having the graph of G greater or equals to that line of symmetry? So whatever answer that you give, ladies and gentlemen, the question is asking you about the x value or values. So your first step is to say x. Why? Because the question it is asking you based on the x value. So can you guys see that where the x value it is actually -2? That's where this graph of G it is actually above that line. I'm just not sure if there's a better way of explaining this, Kensani, but this type of information is normally based on your mathematical experience. Once you do more and more of this type of problems, that's when you realize what is meant by something being above or something being below. I'm just not really sure of how best can I explain this, but in answering the question, at where x it is actually above or greater than 2 or from 2 in that direction, that's where you've got your G being greater or equals to that line. Is there someone who might help with the best explanation there, guys? I'm not sure if there's someone who can assist with the best explanation to that. Let me see. Lebogang, Grace, do you think you can explain it better?
The question again?
Joined now.
Oh, Grace joined just now. So I was saying, Lerato, do you think you can explain this thing or this question better than I did? How best can we explain that such that everyone understands? Because this type of questions are based on your mathematical experience. When you've done more of similar questions, that's when you are able to easily answer these questions based on the function there. Kensan, I'm not sure, Kensan, if there's a way in which you can best explain this.
I know, say there's no way. I cannot even explain that do I understand.
So, in conclusion, I would say give yourself an opportunity to solve as many problems as possible related to straight line, parabola, hyperbola, and exponential. In that way, you will be able to notice some new things as you continue to solve some more and more of exam problems. And once you get to that stage where you are able to answer questions which require calculations, that's when you will easily be able to understand what is meant by the graph being greater than the other one or whatever. And also the skill to interpret um, the problem. It is also needed. So it means you it actually takes an experienced learner to notice that this question is actually talking about the graph of G being greater or equals to what is it? That being the line of symmetry. I hope that makes a bit of a sense, guys, even though you might not have um, fully understood what I've just explained now, based on the fact that I'm saying it is actually based on you being experienced mathematically. But I hope you guys did manage to grab something out of today's lesson. So, guys, this brings us to the end of our lesson for today, and I hope you did enjoy as much as I did. Let me just make sure that I correct something over there. I might have written a 2 there, but did you guys notice that I'm actually referring to that -2 there? So that means for you to get full marks, full 2 marks, that's when you say x it is equals to -2. So it's more like we're saying where x it is a -2. So it's more like from there in that direction, that's where you will be having this graph of G being that one, being greater or equals to that line. So it's more like it's actually running above that line. So it will never be equals to that line. Why? Because you can see this one, it continues in that direction, and this one, it continues in that direction. But this one, it will never cross this side of asymptote. It will also never cross this side of an asymptote. You remember, we've always been saying this hyperbola, it just runs parallel, or it just gets closer, but it never touch or it never cross. Only if it was crossing, then we can say this line somehow it was just going to continue, maybe meet up in China, because obviously it is continuing at a certain angle, and this one at a certain angle. Maybe after traveling for like a few years in China, they were going to cross also in that direction, somewhere, wherever in the world it was going to cross. But the reason why when we give our answer there, we are no longer using the sign of greater than or is equals to, but we use greater than, is because we know that these two lines, they will never be equal. Why? Because we have restrictions of asymptotes there, which means this will just be like that and continue straight upwards, straight to the right, and never cross to the other side towards that straight line of what is it? Symmetry. I'm not sure if I improved my explanation there, given Kensani, but I hope you guys did notice something out of this lesson. So, guys, before I close our lesson for today, is there someone who's got a question, or are you all happy there?
I'm very much
Lebogang,
happy.
are you
I'm
crying there,
happy with
guys?
today's lesson.
I think Lebogang is crying. I'm not sure. Lebogang, are you okay there?
I'm okay. I'm happy.
Okay. Tsepang, are we doing good that side?
Yeah.
100%. So, guys, thanks very much for joining. My name is Desmond, and I'm out.
Thank you, sir.